So, how do our best ideas get even better? We usually think it's either some huge revolutionary breakthrough or just endlessly testing the same old theories. But what if there's a third way? A method for pushing knowledge forward that doesn't mean starting from scratch. Well, in this explainer, we are breaking down a playbook for renovating the brilliant ideas we already have and making them more powerful than ever. All right, here's the game plan. We're going to start with a really big problem that a lot of fields are facing right now. Then we'll introduce this powerful solution called theory elaboration and unpack the practical toolkit you can actually use. We'll even give you a simple checklist to know when to use it and where it's needed most today. Okay, first things first, let's talk about the problem. In pretty much any field built on discovery, think management, psychology, you name it, even the biggest ideas can get, well, stuck. There's this growing sense of frustration with how slow progress can be, and it's all driven by these two opposing forces. And while this quote from Donald Hambrook just nails one side of the problem, doesn't it? It captures this feeling that the explosive, creative energy of those foundational ideas has just faded, that things are slowing to a crawl. But why is that happening? Well, it's because of this massive tug-of-war. On one hand, you have fragmentation, where a field shatters into a million tiny, disconnected pieces that don't talk to each other. But on the other hand, you have this living museum problem, where people just retest the same old ideas over and over again. So you're either splintering into chaos or you're just stuck in the past. How do you possibly move forward? This is where our solution comes in. And it's not about demolishing old ideas or starting over. Nope, it's a much more clever third way forward. It's called theory elaboration, and it's all about working with what we already have to make it significantly better. You can see right here how theory elaboration carves out its own unique space. Look, it's not theory generation. It doesn't start with something totally unexplained. And it's not theory testing. It's not just trying to prove or disprove something. Instead, it starts with an idea that kind of works, one that's only a partial explanation, and its whole goal is to refine it into something much, much better. I absolutely love this analogy. Think of it like renovating a beautiful, historic building. You wouldn't tear it down, right? The foundation is solid. Instead, you honor that foundation, but you add new wings, you update the wiring, you make it relevant and useful for today. You build on what's already there to make it way more powerful. Okay, so this all sounds great, but how do you actually do it? Well, theory elaboration isn't some vague idea. It's a really concrete toolkit with 7 specific tactics, and they're all grouped into 3 main approaches. The very first approach is called contrasting. This is all about stress testing a theory in different settings. It's how we figure out what parts of an idea are universal and what parts only work in specific situations. And this gives us 2 tactics. Horizontal contrasting is like testing a recipe in a totally different context. Does a home kitchen recipe still work in a 5-star restaurant? Then you've got vertical contrasting, which tests the theory across different levels. Like, does a rule for managing one person still hold up when you're managing an entire company? Okay, our second approach is construct specification. This one is all about sharpening our focus on the core concepts of a theory. The building blocks. It's about making sure our language and our ideas are as precise and as useful as they can possibly be. And this involves 2 more tactics. First, new specification is like discovering a brand new essential ingredient that everyone missed before. Then there's construct splitting, which is like realizing the word flour is just way too broad, so you break it down into cake flour, bread flour, and so on. For instance, the vague idea of workforce diversity was split into 3 distinct types, which helped explain team performance so much better. And the final approach is structuring. This is all about mapping out the relationships between the building blocks of a theory. It's not just about what the pieces are, it's about how they connect, how they interact, and how they unfold over time. So our last 3 tactics map out these relationships. Specific relations defines the exact link between 2 ideas. Sequence relations puts everything in the right order. It turns a list of ingredients into an actual recipe. And finally, recursive relations accounts for those tricky feedback loops, like how a manager's beliefs and a company's actions can keep reinforcing each other. So now we have this amazing toolkit, but how do you know when to actually pull it out and use it? Well, it turns out there's a really simple 3-question checklist that tells you exactly when. Question 1. Do you have a foundation to build on? Remember, this is renovation, not building on an empty lot. You absolutely need an existing theory and some data to start with. If you don't have that, you might need to generate a new theory from scratch instead. Question 2. Is there a real puzzle to solve here?
If the current theory is vague or contradictory or just totally fails to explain what you're seeing in the world, then bingo, you've got room to elaborate. If it already works perfectly, you probably just need to test it.
And the third and final question. Can you bring in some fresh evidence? Elaboration needs new data, whether that's qualitative or quantitative, to integrate with the old theory. That's what lets you do all the contrasting, specifying, and structuring. And if you can answer yes to all three of these questions, you've got a perfect candidate for theory elaboration.
Okay, so why does any of this matter? It matters because this toolkit can be used right now to tackle some of the most exciting and challenging frontiers of knowledge. It gives us a way to make sense of our super fast changing world without having to throw out decades of wisdom. And these frontiers are fascinating. We can use this toolkit to adapt old theories to brand new contexts, like using classic business strategy to finally understand modern crowdsourcing platforms. We can also use it to resolve arguments that have been going on for years, or even explore cases where a theory seems to work completely in reverse. So let's bring this all home. The big challenge for any field of knowledge is to avoid becoming either that splintered mess or that stagnant museum. Theory elaboration gives us a clear path forward. The big takeaway? Progress doesn't always need a revolution. Sometimes it needs a renovation. With these 7 tactics, we have a clear playbook to take foundational ideas off the museum shelf and put them back to work in the real world. It's such a powerful reminder that we can always make our best ideas even better. And this isn't just for academic researchers. This is a way of thinking for anyone. So I'll leave you with this. What's a powerful idea in your world that feels incomplete or maybe just a little outdated? What great theory is just sitting there, waiting for its elaboration?